Based off of the Margaret Mitchell 1936 novel of the same name, Gone with the Wind takes place during the American Civil War, following Scarlett, played by Vivien Leigh, trying to chase after her crush Ashley, played by Leslie Howard, but Ashley is unfortunately already taken and marrying his own cousin. Ew!
I don't believe it!
His own cousin, Melanie, played by Olivia de Havilland. Scarlett eventually professes her love but faces rejection until meeting Rhett, played by Clark Gable, who she takes a liking to. As the war takes its toll on those and those around them, the relationships are constantly tested as they also try to handle the aftermath of the war, all of which we'll talk more about later.
You must be patient.
Despite its accolades, originally many studios refused to even adapt the novel until Warner Brothers showed interest, but Betty Davis, their biggest star at the time, turned it down, but eventually the rights were bought for $50,000 by Selznick International Pictures. Casting took 2 years, but Clark Gable was the ideal choice from the beginning, but he was under contract with another studio at the time who refused to allow it to happen, which was the same case for Gary Cooper, who was so sure that the movie was going to fail. Gone with the Wind is going to be the biggest flop in Hollywood history, and I'm just glad it'll be Clark Gable who's falling on his face and not Gary Cooper. How's that going for you, Gary?
I'll wait and hope for better things.
Eventually, a deal for Gable was reached, his studio paying for half the film's budget, but in return, Selznick would pay the actor's weekly salary and they'd also get half of the profits. Due to this, production was delayed, allowing the script to go under more revision and the search for the part of Scarlett to be broadened. Joan Crawford was considered, as was Norma Shearer, who backed out last minute, and Katharine Hepburn tried her best to land the role but was rejected, believing she wasn't right for the part. Many actresses were considered who would actually go on to become famous later on, including Ardis Ankerson, Jean Arthur, Tallulah Bankhead, Diana Barrymore, Joan Burnett, Nancy Coleman, Frances Dee, Ellen Drew, Paulette Goddard, Susan Hayward, Anita Louise, Hayla Stoddard, Margaret Talichet, Lana Turner and Linda Watkins. Miriam Hopkins was the one they wanted but was then discarded for being too old, in her mid-30s at this point, and Paulette Goddard nearly won the auditions but her marriage with legend Charlie Chaplin caused issues, so it went to Vivien Leigh instead. I couldn't find out why her marriage with Charlie Chaplin was a problem, so off to the internet you go, my minions!
Oh, do we have to?
Sidney Howard worked on the screenplay, but his first draft would have came out around 6 hours long on screen. Yeah, far too long. Let's just keep it short and sweet with 4 hours.
You mind your own business.
The director was originally George Cukor, but he was fired after just 3 weeks due to constant disagreements between him and the producer. Some claim it was because Cukor was a homosexual and he couldn't properly direct the love scenes. Just a tad homophobic.
I don't care.
And they decided to get Victor Fleming, who was already directing the previously reviewed Wizard of Oz at this point. Fleming, however, was unhappy with the script, so another writer, Ben Hecht, was brought in with help from producer David Selznick, and this brought to question who should be credited for the script. By the time of the film's release in 1939, there was some question as to who should receive screen credit, but despite the number of writers and changes, the final script was remarkably close to Howard's version. The fact that Howard's name alone appears on the credits may have been as much a gesture to his memory as to his writing, for in 1939, Sidney Howard died at age 48 in a farm tractor accident and before the movie's premiere. The work schedule was hectic to say the least. Anytime the movie was delayed, it cost $50,000 a day, and they were still waiting for the final script to be finished. They would literally act out scenes, then the writer would go to the typewriter to type them up, being pressured and hurried constantly. They did this for around 18 to 20 hours a day for an entire week, often refusing to even eat lunch as it slowed them down. Filming began on January the 26th, 1939 and wrapped up on July the 1st that same year, and it was the second most expensive film ever made at that time with $3.85 million, only behind 1925's Ben Hur. Weirdly, the film's producer was also fined $5,000 for the famous line,
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Yes, he was fined $5,000 because he used the word damn.
If you make any jokes now, I'll kill you!
It was widely believed for a while that this was the first movie to ever use such a word, but no, Cavalcade and Pygmalion both predate it, so who knows what the issue was. In fact, one line had to actually be censored because Rhett originally said, maybe you'll have a miscarriage. Yeah, but they had to censor it to,
maybe you'll have an accident.
The movie was premiered on September the 9th, 1939 in Riverside, California, but this was only a rough cut, missing titles and some special effects. It was 4 hours and 25 minutes before being cut down to that short and sweet 4 hours. Just simple, just 4 hours, nice and short.
Oh, you mustn't say that. It's bad luck.
After the film had finished, it received a standing ovation and it was officially premiered on December the 15th, 1939, which the local governor ruled a state holiday, leading to 300,000 residents in Atlanta lining the streets. But shockingly, Leslie Howard and Victor Fleming refused to attend. Howard was back in England due to the Second World War, and Fleming had beef with the producer Selznick and refused to show up at any of his premieres. But I think it's safe to say that it was quite well received. The result is a film which is a major event in the history of the industry, but only a minor achievement in motion picture art. There are moments when the two categories meet on good terms, but the long stretches between are filled with mere spectacular efficiency. However, Frank wasn't too thrilled about part 2. Like a lot of other people, he found it too long and tedious. The Civil War was the driving force of the first part, while the characters dominate the second. This is where the main fault of the picture lies. The characters alone do not suffice. Despite some excellent scenes, the drama is unconvincing and the psychological development was neglected.
I apologize again for all my shortcomings.
The movie went on to set a record at the Academy Awards, winning 8 of its 13 nominations for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actress for Vivien Leigh, Best Supporting Actress for Hattie McDaniel, making her the first ever African American to win an Oscar, Best Cinematography, Best Editing and Best Art Direction. This was the most Oscar wins until Gigi in '58, winning 9, which was then beaten by Ben-Hur a year later with 11. This movie also held the record for the longest feature film in history with 221 minutes, until Lawrence of Arabia came out in 1962, which is 1 minute longer, though this, to this day, is the longest Best Picture winner ever made, and Vivien Leigh has the longest performance to ever win Best Actress with 2 hours, 23 minutes and 32 seconds. But despite its popularity, the film was slammed by African Americans for its portrayal of them and possible glorification of slavery. Colton Moss, who was a black dramatist, compared it to The Birth of a Nation, which he called a frontal attack on American history and the black people, with this one subtly doing the exact same thing. Actually, the KKK do appear in the Gone with the Wind novel as heroes. No joke.
How did you know?
He called it nothing more than a nostalgic plea for sympathy for a still living cause of Southern reaction. He also hated how all of the black characters were portrayed as shiftless, dull-witted and irresponsible. The leader of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Walter Francis White, even called Hattie McDaniel an Uncle Tom for this. The actress actually responded saying, "I would rather make $700 a week playing a maid than $7 being one." But who is Walter Francis White to speak on the behalf of all blacks? He's light-skinned and only 1/8 black.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way.
Hattie wasn't even allowed at the premiere because of the racial prejudice, leading to Clark Gable boycotting the event himself before being pressured to attend. Clark Gable's such a nice guy! Is that what you're saying right now? Well, actually, no. Vivien Leigh hated doing kissing scenes with him because he smoked and he had really bad smelling breath. So apparently, right before they shot the kissing scenes, he would intentionally eat loads of garlic to make it worse. Douche.
I won't think about that now.
In fact, if box office receipts were adjusted for inflation, this would actually be the #1 highest grossing movie in history with a mind-blowing $4,401,358,554.94.
What are you complaining about?
But hey, actor Clark Gable actually hated this film, despite it being his most known, calling it a woman's picture. Sexist.
I can't help being proud of it.
He didn't even want to do it in the first place, but was pressured by the studio and nearly walked out on set mid-shoot before being convinced to stay. In fact, author Margaret Mitchell also wanted absolutely nothing to do with the feature film either, and all of the leads hated the characters they were portraying for what they had to do for the screen. They also didn't really appreciate Victor Fleming's direction. Sometimes he would tell Vivien Leigh to just ham it up, and other times he told her to take the script and shove it up her royal British arse. You know, I kind of felt bad in the Wizard of Oz review for revealing that he slapped Judy Garland on set, because I didn't want to, portray him in a negative light. But no, he was a douchebag, screw him.
He's an asshole.
Honestly, for its time, the cinematography is amazing. The way the shots are set up, the lighting, it looks incredible and way ahead of its time. If I didn't know the year, I genuinely believe this was like the 50s or 60s or something. Some of the visuals are just so advanced, it's insane. Even simple shots like this, as she looks out the window and it slowly zooms in. It's really basic now, but so creative back then. This was the damn 30s. This is a weird angle, but it's still so inventive for its time. In fact, all of the shots as they race through the war zone look spectacular, and I can't praise the lighting enough. It has some great music all the way through, even just the opening overture, but the score itself is magnificent too, and the acting for the entire movie is incredible. There is literally not a single solitary frame where I am unconvinced by any of the performances. It's a bit weird though that they show all of the credits right at the start. Like, literally all of them. They show who scratched the director's asshole and everything. What the hell do they expect to show at the end? Oh well, one way to pad out more time, I guess.
What do we care if we were expelled from college, Scarlett? The war's gonna start any day now, so we'd have left college anyhow.
War, isn't it exciting, Scarlett?
They're quite excited for the war to start. And this film came out in 1939. Bit awkward. And then they act really shocked when a woman isn't too keen on a war. What the hell?
Ashley doesn't know I love him. I tell him that I love him, and then he can't marry.
I don't think love works the way you think it works. Are we just not going to mention the fact that John Wilkes was the guy who shot Lincoln? No? Okay.
Oh, I never can make up my mind which of you two's the handsomer. I was awake all last night trying to figure it out.
Let's spit roaster. Oh, also, this is Superman. Go figure. But this is where we get the biggest problem of the film. The love story. The entire film is based around it, and it's awful. This character of Scarlett, I would probably say, is the single most unlikable protagonist in movie history, and it blows my mind how she's loved by so many. It genuinely blows my mind that this love story is praised to no end. Twilight has a better love story. No, 50 Shades has a better love story. No, honestly, I genuinely mean that. Let's just summarize every single thing that happened, shall we, kids?
The sooner the better.
Scarlett fancies Ashley but can't tell him, so she decides to string along these two guys and flirt with them. She then surrounds herself by men, all of whom adore her and get all of their hopes up, using them for attention while she's still hung up on another dude. She finally tells Ashley how she feels. He rejects her because he, you know, is marrying someone else and is taken. She then freaks out and says he led her on. Okay, just easing you in, hold on.
Awful. Just awful.
Then this guy pours his heart out to her. She ignores him but then agrees to marry him anyway, just to spite Ashley, once again using a man to manipulate his feelings. We then cut to, I shit you not, the very next scene and he's dead. She's then purchased at an auction by Rhett, which she for some reason finds sweet. Alright, times were different back then, so I'll let this one slide.
How sweet.
She then starts to have a thing for Rhett.
Someday I want you to say to me the words I heard you say to Ashley Wilkes. I love you.
We've met like twice. Then again, I'll bang anything with a pulse, so yeah, sure, I love you, why not?
What do you mean, sir?
Rhett then goes to kiss her but stops and says she needs a real man but not yet, only when the time is right, which is actually quite charming, smooth and somewhat badass. But despite being moved like this, she is still torn up and heartbroken over Ashley still, despite marrying since then and gaining feelings for another. Ashley shows up again and claims he has to leave, but she refuses to let him go. They even start making out despite him being taken and her now leading on Rhett.
I don't care.
But then Rhett decides to go to the army and she's torn up about it for absolutely no reason, considering she's clearly obsessed with Ashley, but they kiss anyway and then she slaps him.
They were right. Everybody was right. You aren't a gentleman.
How has he done anything ungentlemanly at this point?
Hold on!
She then wishes him to die, but hey, here's another guy.
You all alone, little lady?
Great, he's creepy as hell, so she probably loves him now too. Oh! Okay, I gotta admit, I didn't see that coming.
What are you afraid of?
So she kills a man randomly and disposes of the body. The war finally ends and she's still hung up on Ashley for some reason. They meet back up and kiss again. She professes her love but he rejects her, wanting to stay with Melanie. Then he changes his mind and says he loves Scarlett instead. Then despite slapping him earlier for no reason, she then poses as Rhett's sister to meet him and they act like nothing happened. Somehow no one overhears the conversation as he constantly calls her hot. She then asks him for money and flips out when he says no. She lies to this dude, I think, about some bird he likes marrying someone else. I don't know, I kind of zoned out at this point. But she looks so smug and proud of herself before stealing from him. Then she gets upset about Ashley leaving and pretends to cry to guilt trip him. No, they actually show that she's really pretending. Rhett continues to obsess over her and try to win her over, but she keeps rejecting him.
What a woman.
Cunt. The word is cunt. She cries to get sympathy from Rhett. She claims she's glad some people are dead, which then leads to him proposing to her for some reason.
I shall never marry again.
Oh, yes, you will. And you'll marry me.
You? I don't love you.
You didn't love the last dude you married either.
Don't, I shall faint.
I want you to faint. This is what you were meant for.
Way to turn him into the creepy, perverted rapist guy!
I don't believe it.
Then she tells him to leave her alone. He promises to come back. We get a montage of her using him for his money. No, it actually has a montage of her spending all of his cash. Oh, look, it's a baby birthed through manipulation, lies, deceit, cheating, and gold digging. Such a lucky child. And despite marrying numerous times and having a baby, she's still in love with Ashley. He threatens divorce and she calls him low for it, and then they're fine like nothing happened again. Then she gets caught kind of cheating with Ashley. Rhett gets drunk and threatens to physically rip Scarlett apart. It's bad that the protagonist is being threatened physical bodily harm, and I'm rooting for it to happen.
Even though I know you've been faithful to me all along. How do I know? Because I know Ashley Wilkes and his honorable breed.
What's stopping her from cheating with somebody else? He then carries her upstairs and brutally rapes her, and she enjoys it. No word of a lie, he rapes her, and this resolves the issue. She's all smiles and happy. Rhett then apologizes and blames it on the drink, because alcohol apparently makes you a crazed rapist.
Well, that's fine.
She finds him charming until he causes her to miscarry and then hits on Melanie because everyone in this film is a douchebag. She then confronts Ashley one more time.
Ashley, you should have told me years ago that you loved her, not me.
He has been for the entire fucking movie! What is wrong with these writers? Then as soon as Ashley leaves, she rushes around looking for Rhett because she's lonely and needs some cock and some attention.
Of course I appreciated her. She thought of everybody except herself.
Yeah, you should try it, love. And she even lies and claims the dying Melanie gave her permission to go after Ashley and is then surprised when Rhett leaves her.
What about Ashley Wilkes?
I never really loved Ashley.
Yeah, I never loved him. I just pretended for 20 years. The movie ends with her trying to think of a way to win him back, but how does any of what I just explained to you sound anything remotely resembling a touching love story? Can someone please tell me? 50 Shades is abuse, but it doesn't feature full-on rape, which is portrayed as fucking romantic. This takes rape and tries to make it a touching romantic angle, which is pure fucking disgusting and a slap in the face of any fucking rape victim. Imagine going to the cinema to see this supposed romantic film and you see a fucking rape portrayed as a fucking act of love. What the fuck? Victor Fleming somehow made one of the best movies of all time and one of the worst in the same year. That's fucking impressive. We have 3 protagonists and not one of them is likable. Ashley is a cheating douchebag who bangs his own cousin, and there is no reason for Scarlett to love him either. There's no indication they had a thing before the movie started, and there's no development for how or why she gains feelings for him during the movie. He ignores her mostly, so her falling for him to the point of sheer obsession makes no sense, especially considering he's a cheating douchebag. Scarlett treats everyone like crap, only thinks of herself and manipulates everyone's feelings, banging anything with legs who mistreats her, and Rhett is a rapist. I mean, him walking out on her at the end is portrayed so cool and badass, like we're meant to be like, yeah, Rhett, you showed her, go, my dude. No, he raped her. I can't root for him. All of these characters are assholes, pure assholes.
That's your misfortune.
I do like the contrast from the war and the love subplot though. It cuts back and forth in part 1 quite well, and it's pretty much what Pearl Harbor should have been. Well, to an extent. Here, there's even a scene where Scarlett sees people dying and storms out all upset, making it all about her once again. Now, I get it, it's a depressing sight, but you know, you can step out quietly if it's too much, not drawing as much attention to yourself as possible, you self-centered bag.
Scarlett! Folks is all going to Nathan, and folks is running away and running away!
That cannot be her real voice.
I knows how to do it. I've done it lots and lots. Let me, doctor. Let me. I can do everything.
She a leftover munchkin from The Wizard of Oz?
I don't know how come it tells such a lie. Mine never let me around when folks is having them.
I genuinely can't understand a word she's saying. Is that seriously her real voice? Because why would you cast anyone who sounds like that?
Miss Scarlett, she
got me for you. Miss Merle, she done had her baby today. Well, it was mostly me, Captain Butler. Only Miss Scarlet, she helped me a little. But I don't think no doctor could have done no better.
My God! And what should be a really emotional moment of them traveling with a crying baby past loads of corpses is ruined by...
Miss Scarlet, I was powerful hungry.
This would be a good idea! Now, for a 4-hour film, admittedly it's not as boring as it could be. The opening titles were 5 minutes alone, and the intermission is nearly 4 minutes. It's padded out and it starts to drag towards the end of part 1. But it will only get worse in the second half, especially after we spend 90 seconds on this damn screen. Oh, you know you found a true best friend when they help you dispose of a corpse you've just butchered. And you know, these two are pretty damn casual considering they just killed a man and got rid of the evidence. But here we are at the 2-hour mark and they're discussing who's marrying who, expecting us to care. We're 120 minutes in. How can we give a damn, and how the hell do they plan to pad out another hour 45? The war is over. The relationship crap is stale now. Do something.
You've been brave so long, Miss Scarlet.
How? Treating everyone like dirt for her own selfish benefit? Oh no, our hero is in danger. Push her in and let her die! Seriously, everything at this point is now filler. They have ran out of material and are just padding out time. I don't know, put Scarlet in danger or something. But she's a horrible person, why would anyone care? Do it anyway, so she can be rescued and win over the guy. Which one? Who cares? But yeah, none of this could surely be cut out. They kept in the essentials. The story-driven stuff that really keeps the plot going. You know, things like Scarlet gaining baby weight and having self-esteem issues. This will surely make us like her and sympathize and forget about all of the lives she's ruined. Who cares? Let's watch their kid learn how to ride a damn horse. Who gives a flying fuck about this? They are rushing through her aging process, but it has nothing to do with anything. Get to the goddamn credits! Nah, how about giving Ashley a birthday party scene? This is just torture! This is all it is now. It's just Scarlet having an awkward, unromantic scene with Ashley. Scarlet having an awkward, unromantic scene with Rhett. Back and forth, copy and paste!
You mean you're going away again?
Aw, but then who's gonna brutally rape me? And this is our hero falling down the stairs, but the only reason I feel bad is because she's pregnant. It's not the baby's fault she's a bitch, I don't care about her.
You don't understand. She never wanted this baby.
Not want a baby? Why, every woman wants a baby.
She didn't. And then their daughter dies in a horse riding accident. This is just random pieces of misery now. The story ended like 2 hours ago and now it's just random shit goes wrong. Random shit goes wrong. This is the most overrated movie in the 1001 so far. There, I said it. And pushing 3 hours and 41 minutes, Mammy goes on this long-ass speech with emotional music playing and the actresses do a great job. But who cares when we're nearly at the 4-hour mark?
Promise me anything. Look after my little son.
You know, I'm sure this death scene will be far more emotional if I actually gave two shits about either character. And due to the open ending, there were requests to the author for a sequel, but she claimed she had no interest in going back to those characters. She was pestered for one all the way until her death in 1949, but always refused. However, in '75, her brother, who now had control of her estate, gave permission for it to finally happen on a budget of $12 million, and Anne Edwards was even brought in to write it as a novel, which would then be adapted. She came out with a 775-page script called Tara, the continuation of Gone with the Wind, set between 1872 and 1882, focusing on Scarlett's divorce, but the studio weren't happy with the story and it just never went ahead. However, in the 90s, the idea was brought back up again, and a sequel was even produced in 1994 in the form of a TV miniseries called Scarlet, based on Alexandra Ripley's novel, which is a sequel to the original book, following Scarlett's relocation to Ireland after the events of the first story. And there's even a prequel in 2014 based on the character of Mammy. It's just unnecessarily long, has an awful love triangle that isn't remotely romantic or sexy. It's disgusting and abusive, but it does look great. Visually it's amazing and should be seen, and the acting is all around terrific, but the script should be the most important part of a film. Remember when the script actually mattered? When people didn't just pretty images. Great. It won awards, so it has to be good.
My darling, you're such a child.
It's just awful, overrated, and 4 hours too long. Bring on the hate, you don't understand, you don't get the hype because you weren't around back then, or I don't like the film.